I think women and people in marginalised communities in particular struggle, and really unnecessarily struggle, with how it is to move through your career. And I hope that you're inspired by the stories this evening, because you're going to hear about how it is to climb a ladder, or in fact a jungle gym, as it's called by Sabrina here, in one organisation, and how it is to really succeed there. You're going to hear from Jean, who began as a landscape architect and now moving into being an architect. And I'd love to, we're going to hear the story about how it is to coming from a different perspective. And Michaela, you're an architect and now you've moved into the education world. And I think so many of us talk about how we can fix education. So this is going to be a brilliant conversation there, I know. Laura is an incredible architect, and she's going to talk about how it is to move sectors and to move from really vastly different sectors, and it's a fantastic story. Now, Angaraj, you're an amazing person in terms of your career journey, and you've come kind of full circle. So you're an architect and you have been in practice, and then you stepped onto the other side, the client side, which we're also fascinated by, so I think we've got loads of questions for you there. But then you've come back, but not come back to the same position, but a brand new position that was created for you, which is a fabulous, fabulous story. And Leah, you're an incredible woman, and you are so brave and so courageous, and you founded your own practice in India, and you came here to study, but initially struggled to gain your credibility, from everything that you've already accomplished in India. You're a published architect there, but there is a happy ending at this point to your story, and it's really just the beginning, so we can't wait to talk about that. So can I make sure that Sabrina has the microphone? We're going to start with you, Sabrina. If you could just put it up. No? Yes. Good. So Sabrina, you've got an amazing story, and just take us back to kind of where you were as coming into architecture and where you are now. That would be amazing. Oh, yeah.
Right. So where do I start? So I'm Sabrina. I work at Broadway Malian. I'm the group CEO. I started working at Broadway Malian, and I lost count, but I think it's around 18 years, something like that. I studied as an architectural assistant. I actually studied in Argentina, and I went to America for a little while, and then I came to the UK to do a master's degree in the Architectural Association. And Broadway Malian was the first business that opened the door for me. No one wanted to give me a job there because I didn't have UK experience. And so it happened that I was good with computers at the time, and they needed people to operate the computers, so I was operating the computers. I started, as I said, as an assistant. It was the time where the business expanded internationally very, very quickly. We opened studios in Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Asia, Shanghai, Singapore, Mumbai, etc. So I took the opportunity to grow my career as the business was growing, and I had a fantastic time. I traveled around the world, and I designed and delivered buildings all over the world. An absolutely fantastic opportunity. And as you can imagine, throughout those first years of my career, everything went fantastic. I was having a great time, but I was also climbing a ladder, really well climbed. And I was very young, and I became very quickly a director of architecture within, I don't remember, 4 or 5 years of being in the business, starting from very, very young. And so this is where the story has a little bit of a turn. And I met my husband ages ago, but I got pregnant, and I had one child, and then I had another child, and then I had another child. So I slept, right? So I have 3 children, which are lovely, and I like to the world, but that took me 5 years. And during those 5 years, my career completely stopped. I didn't realize it at the time because I was so busy baking babies and looking after small children. But when I came back after my third maternity leave, I realized that I came back to a complete vacuum. There was no space for me. There was no role for me. No one had thought about how am I going to come back to the business after another year of maternity leave. We really didn't have a plan of return back to work from maternity or paternity leave. So it was very hard for me because most of my peers that we grew up together, they all had found their slot, their space in the business where they had moved to another studio in a different place, or whether they had found a different role somewhere. I felt that I didn't belong, and so the good news is because I didn't have a plan for me, I had quite a bit of time in my hands, which is great because when you're not that busy, then you can actually think, right? You know, when we are very busy, we actually don't think, and sometimes it's really good to and then that time of reflection, the penny really dropped when I realized that yes, my career has completely stalled, and that also I was still the same Sabrina that before my three, as I call it, my collection of children, and as capable of, but people wouldn't see me the same way. And why wouldn't they see me the same way? Why wouldn't I have the same opportunities that I had before? So I took my time on, and I started analyzing the business, and I started looking at the information that we were holding in the business management and profitability. I've always been extremely passionate about the commercial aspect of how a business is run, which is quite rare for an architect because we all architects just like to design and we do not actually pay much attention to what makes a business work, which is clients paying money and actually us not spending more than we are earning. And so I started looking at all of those aspects of the business. How do we collect the money? How do we run the projects? Do people understand what they are delivering? Are they reading the scope of works, the way the contracts are written? Well, absolutely everything related to commercial. And I wrote the paper, and I sent this paper to our MD, at the time knew from before. So this MD knew me but didn't know me in detail. We never worked together, so he didn't trust me. And I sent this paper to him. I have to say that at that point, I said to myself, I have two options here. I either leave or I change what I have. And hence why I decided to write this paper. I sent it to him and I asked him for a meeting, which surprisingly he accepted. And the meeting happened. I was absolutely terrified. He got into the meeting and my paper was full of red marks and notes. So at one point I thought, okay, well, this is great, this is ready, right? So this is ready. But it's full of red marks, so he's probably thinking it's not good enough. And I said to him, I said, look, before you said anything, the only thing I'm asking you is for an opportunity to show you that I can do this. And if I fail, then I go, and I'm happy to go. But if I don't, then maybe we have something here. And he gave me the opportunity, which was great. And that was the first step, which I thought was the hardest, but it wasn't. The hardest bit was to actually carve my new path by myself, without a mentor, without somebody holding my back and telling me, it's okay, I got you, and weighing the hearts and minds of all of the business directors, which some were happy to see this new initiative coming in, which we didn't know what it was at the time, but others absolutely hated it. And they were very vocal about it. So on the back of that, I created a new business function, which I don't think exists in a lot of architectural practices. We call it commercial practice. I think Laura is here somewhere. She's one of my first babies. Commercial practice was born basically with the intention to raise commercial awareness in the business, to teach architects to look after the commercial as much as the design, that they're both important, and also to explain to them how does the business work, how actually does the business operate, which is shocking, and how there is no knowledge on the ground. And I had no resources, and hence I had to select one or two people within each studio, and I spent one of the time training them, creating material documents. I created protocols for the business, standardized absolutely everything related to commercial, to where we were reporting, and very quickly it just went everywhere and very viral, and I got given my first title, which was the commercial director of the group. And that happened, I think, it was around a year or a year and a half after this paper was delivered. And by that point, our managing director and I were working quite closely together, so I also managed to build the trust and the relationship with him, which we became a really good team, and he slowly started to hand over group functions to me. So before I knew it, I was looking after IT and HR and legal and the whole, and this is how I am now the group COO. So I look after the whole group operations. It was for me a really intense journey. It was hard to balance my children and a full-time job. There was a massive learning curve. I literally had to upskill myself, so I would buy and read every single business book that I could possibly find. I had to teach myself basic of finance and read WIA books and read about change management and understand about IT and HR, and I'm still reading and listening to podcasts every step that I walk out of the door to maximize my time, because I'm going to get to the school run every day. But it has been absolutely worth it, and I wouldn't go back. It's completely transforming. I'm doing what I love. This role is my passion. It doesn't feel like work, which is what I think we should all be. It feels like play. And because I enjoy it so much, I don't feel that, I don't know how many hours I don't care, it doesn't matter, right? It's about making an impact on others. So
can I just pull this incredible story, and the first time I heard this, I was completely blown away. And I just think there's so many pieces to this story, but really the key to it, like the key that unlocked things, was take a chance on me. I don't even know where this is going, but I know there's more in me, and I just want you to acknowledge that there's more in me, and then let me go. But now looking back, is it also that could it have been like slightly easier as well if, yes, someone has given you a chance, but then they also come in and support, and so I think for a lot of us, we're just seeking some acknowledgement that we exist, or that we've got talent, or there's more. And once we feel like we've gotten to that point, it's easy. But like you said, like that wasn't the hardest bit. So it is. I just love to know, now that you're in the COO role and that you see others around you possibly trying to push above their weight or crack things open or slam open a door, I don't know, but you're seeing more of this now, having gone through it. I'd just love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I do, and I make a huge, I make a big point about this, and it sees me every day. I think what I like to do today is to lead by example. So I think it's not about the words, but it's about what you show. So I say to everyone that I'm leaving at 2 o'clock because I really need to get to the school run, and I do. And I don't lie, I bring my whole self to work, and I'm in a position where we are changing one of the policies, for example, of the business, and we're making, huge progress. There's still a lot to go, but I am using my my position. Well, the one thing that I said to myself when I started this journey, which I didn't know where it was going to take me, is that if I do it so others don't have to go through what I went. And that's the legacy that I want to leave to everyone in the business and to children and to it's about no one should have had to go through, no woman or man coming back from maternity or paternity leave should come back to nothing. Because you feel so vulnerable, you have been away from it for a year or however long, and so there needs to be that level of contention around it. So that's what I'm doing. I am actually using my position to ensure that it doesn't happen.
Thank you for sharing your story. Jean. So you are, thank you. So you are a mentee in this year's program, and you have a wonderful story about switching from landscaping to architecture, following the money, clearly. Please tell us your story.
Thank you for sharing the story. That's really lovely to hear. I have worked, I studied, so my name is Jean, I've studied in the United States, I studied here, and I worked in the US, primarily in the landscape sector, and I did feel like there was something missing, and I wanted to explore the opportunities. So I have then gone back to architecture school, and then worked in various practices here. I've also done teaching. I've also started my own practice, doing sort of a bit of both. So I've done now sort of like lots of different nodes. I think in all these sort of time, there is this feeling that I am maybe not still lacking the skill. There's this imposter syndrome that happens. So you start with good of many things, and there's always this constant sort of feeling of an imposter, and really need to up skills and need to be with people who are more specialists. Like one from a very specialist field, really just landscape, to do more architecture, and still not feeling like I know the change in landscape that the environment is in, climate change, changing policy. So I, after sort of running all through these different nodes, there was an opportunity to join firm again, which was a great opportunity. It was time after COVID, the way working was changing, and young family. So it sort of all culminated into kind of the time that I could go back and join the mainstream practice and get exposure to a bigger team, more support, working with a consultant from working with landscape architect again on the other side. And I think the mentor program, despite kind of being surrounded in sort of like this kind of supportive structure, there is still this lack of mentorship within the practice. You are there to kind of push forward a project, to lead a project, but to look after what path you should be going is still quite missing. Even though I feel like I've done many different things, I did feel like there was something that was missing. So mentorship program. Like, I wish I knew about it 20 years ago. So I unashamedly signed up to be a mentee, even after I've kind of gone through my kind of bring on my own, and I benefit immensely from it. I sort of actively requested a non-architect mentor,
Which we can proudly say that we've had in the program, and we would like more people that are outside of architecture who can come in and share their business expertise and just their leadership of teams and or life experience is so relevant. Yeah,
so it was great to have that, to have the different voices, to kind of progress. But is to kind of quiet. I think the different voices quiet the kind of imposter voices that I hear from within, and also to be able to know where to channel my energy the next going forward. It's this kind of general slight exhaustion because you're pushing, constantly, but you're not sure you're pushing. And having this kind of other voice really helps close down some of the doors to emotion. So that's sort of my story.
Is it sometimes when you know too much, like you've come in from this different industry and you've seen architecture from the other side, and then you now go and work with landscape architects and you see it from the architecture side? But is it something about when you know so much, you know how much you don't know still, and this is where this imposter syndrome kicks in for you?
I think so, because sort of their struggle, just off the phone with the landscape architect, they're the last one to call in, the first one to get the budget cut, and I've been there, you just know, and they're just trying to sort of hold it together it's just about trying to find solution, right? And then knowing I don't have all the expertise. You're trying to give them pathways that they could help your project. I think that's something I've learned from this kind of mentor program. Using different voices, like somebody who's not my mentor, he's a project manager. So, from a project manager's point of view, how do you channel that? Channels for kind of the other team member to be able to find that really.
So do you have any tips for us on how to quieten some of those voices? We're still working on that. I'll talk to you after a drink. Shall we?
I'm waiting for he's like, wait till you hear yourself, then let me know.
But I also like the theory that actually, if you're not feeling a slight bit of imposter syndrome, maybe you're not being courageous enough and you're not pushing yourself just far enough. What do you say to that?
Probably a little bit of that, yeah. Not pushing myself to the edge, here, so really nice ledge, say I will need more, Yeah, I think there's probably more. I had to take even more drastic steps to really.
Well, let's say brave rather than drastic, shall we? Just for now. Thank you for sharing your story. So, Michaela, please introduce yourself and your incredible story so far.
Thanks a lot. My name is Michela and I'm an architect. I studied in Italy, in Rome, which, if you can imagine, the most conservative school of architecture, well, we're even beyond that. And also there, no mentorship scheme or whatsoever. Let's say that more or less every student do one or two projects. It's either housing, building, or some general theater that's not better specified where it's gonna go and what it's gonna serve. And everybody more or less has a very defined path to go and work for a local office. And economy in Italy has never been great, especially in Rome, and we got the Colosseum and so on, so it's basically impossible to be anything more. I didn't have a mentor, as I said, but I had this obsessive way of researching and working in the library. So let's say that my mentors have been the book, magazines coming from England. There was, not that old, but there was no Instagram or social, there was a bit of Facebook maybe. So a very different way of accessing information and what was happening in other places. So the day after graduation, I decided it was a good idea to start working, and I decided to go and seek for a job in Thailand because there was a French architect that I loved, this François Roche, an experimental architect, doing different type of projects, and it was one of this research. I stumbled across his work in the library, and he didn't even have a website, so I just found an address and I went. It was July, so I said, worst case scenario, I'm gonna have a nice holiday, just graduate, so it's fine. But he of course said, oh yes, yeah, I wanna work here, yeah, of course, stay. So that completely opened.
It could have gone a different way though, right?
I picked the right country.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. And so it was extremely challenging, besides the cultural shock, because I was born in Tivoli, which is a small town not far from Rome. I studied in Rome, then here you go, you wake up in Bangkok, which is quite different. And that was amazing, really. And then after that, I've always been interested in computational design, complex geometry, so I moved to Paris, where I started working for Shigeru. That was also another cultural shock, because even if it was in Paris, it was like working in Tokyo. It's like spending 3 full years in Tokyo, more exposed to Japanese language than to French. It was one of those years I was there, Shigeru won the Pritzker Prize. We were exposed to incredible clients, incredible projects, was extremely excited. And after that, I moved to London, where I started working for Zaha Hadid, and I had the chance of following through this complex geometry world and see the project going on site and working with incredibly talented people. Some of them are part of the Women in Architecture scheme, which is also quite nice to see. And working in those offices, which are very design and research oriented, they all look at different types of research, but they're all trying to push the boundaries in some way, in some sense. It came quite natural to me to also get closer to education and to see what was happening in the school, especially if I look back at my experience as a student. That, okay, we have Palladio, maybe we have Aldo Rossi, that's it. And wanted to understand if I had something to offer, especially that was the point. I go back to the imposter syndrome, but I'm not gonna touch so much on it. But yeah, it's something that you feel like it's very relevant to be a teacher, especially when we talk about something creative, which is not really an equation, and there are many different ways of approaching a design problem. And so I started teaching, and currently I teach at Buckinghamshire University and at the WIA here in London, but it started quite slowly. I was partially teaching. The good thing of Zaha's office, for example, is that they encourage people to spend some of their time to work in a university, and even just to do tutorials, because it's completely different the way you explain things. I mean, you can be very good at something, it doesn't mean that you're going to be good at explaining it. And then the pandemic happened, and different type of changes in my life. I got this first client, so I decided it was the time to leave a big office, feeling, that I gained a few skills and also, let's say, a way of approaching a project. And I focus mostly on education, and then I have for my side projects going with I don't even define it practice, because it's just myself and my poor husband listening to things that are not going fine. But teaching, like, if I look back at my path, thinking when I was a student that the typical question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Just over there. So the path is going to be quite straight and simple and safe. But it happened something completely different. So the path kept bending and turning. The thing that I like is that if I look back, if someone would have told me this is what you're gonna do, more or less, I would have probably felt scared. I would have also said, oh, you're joking, it's not true. But actually it was everything but scary. It was an amazing journey, and I'm sure that more is gonna come. And I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years. I just gave up the answer. So I think that the thing that I could offer in this mentorship scheme that I wanted to help with was just to, of course, listen the amazing mentee I was paired to, so the amazing work in making the matches, and just explain that we can change paths. It's actually something that if it happens, actually better because it's gonna just enlarge our vision, and it's totally fun. So let's say that it's a figure that I would have liked to have, and say that it's possible and there's nothing wrong in keep walking, keep progressing.
I get the impression you're somebody who lives with no regrets. Is that partly true or true?
Well, now yes, but again, looking at the beginning of the path, absolutely not. Like my life is gonna be very well organized, and this is gonna happen, and next thing you know, you are in retirement.
So the best laid plans. But this is, again, a lot of very similar threads that we're seeing here in terms of these one courageous move that led to another, that led to a bit of hope and taking a chance, and then not necessarily knowing where it goes, but just following your instincts.
No, that's true. Like the advice is really never give up. Just keep working.
And you can always make another turn if that wasn't quite right. And even the fact that you've moved through all these different design practices. And I understand that the last one was like shifting out of there was because you wanted to finally start your own thing and then move into education. But with those other moves that you were making, what was driving the shifts at the time, do you think?
Mostly the design. Like I wanted to work on some specific design, and my passion for geometry, complex geometry, mostly. That I think was what moved me to go from one place to another. I was always been very interested in what these architects I worked for were designing, the way they were thinking, where they teach or used to teach. So it was definitely connected to the office, never really with the place. Like, again, Thailand sounds very tempting.
Because the other thing we grapple with as architects is working on complex projects that take so long to deliver. And so the price, in a way, the price you pay with moving around is you don't potentially see something through, but then again, you see all these different approaches to design and operating and all of these things, so you get a different handle on things.
Yeah, that's true. It depends, I think, mostly on, not really on the size of the project, of course it does matter, but it's mostly on the economy, because when I work at Shigeru Ban, the clients didn't have many financial issue, and the office was Japanese, so I understood what it is to work in Japanese office. So we delivered an insanely beautiful and complex project within 1 year. So that was intense. But then it's true that when you work on more complex and bigger projects, the risk is that you're not gonna see it until the end. But again, it's a step in the process.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thanks a lot. Laura, please tell us your story. You are at Weston Williamson and you're doing some amazing projects.
Hello. Okay. I'm Laura. I'm an architect at Weston Williamson. I'm a mentee on this program. I joined the mentorship program 2 years ago. I got put into group mentoring, which was amazing. I will circle back to that. Sorry for corporate language. The second year, and now I've got an individual mentor, which is great too. So when I was thinking about what to say, I thought I'd start my academic initial projects, because reflecting on that is kind of how I'm currently reflecting on my professional career. One of my key projects that I loved was looking at rituals. It was a monastery, and I designed the whole thing around daily rituals, and it was kind of led into an interest in living, and I was like, maybe I'm going to be a residential architect. So I kind of initially thought, okay, that's my route. And then in my master's, I then looked at factories, and I found this really interesting project where I looked at the brief of the employer and the manufacturing route, and I was like, this is so interesting, the balance between function and the employee. I love that. And I was like, maybe it's a user experience. And I was always so torn between like what I think I should be doing, and everyone else seems like they're really interested in something, and I'm not, and I'm doing loads of different things. But What I did find is I had great tutors when I was at Nottingham Uni, so I spoke to them and I found out what company they worked at, and it was Weston Williamson. I was like, oh, interesting. I love the sound of that practice. I like your kind of vibe you go off, and then I got an interview and I ended up working there. And again, the vibe that I felt from the tutors was true, and I got on with kind of my residential team that I ended up working in. So I started the residential team. I was there for a couple of years. I worked on a range of projects from concept design to delivery stage. I became quite interested in Revit and BIM. Loved that. So maybe I'm going to be a BIM specialist.
You need a label, don't you? Love labels.
I'm just like, everyone else seems to know what they want to do and I don't, and I'm stressed. And then I qualified, and then a year after I qualified, I hit this kind of, I stalled, and I was like, I lost all this kind of energy that I had, all this positivity, and I was like, I actually don't know if I'm enjoying my job anymore, and I am stressed. And I then went to Google and I was like, mentors, find me a mentor. And I found women in architecture. So
Well done, Google.
So I was like, I kind of was panicking, like I feel like I need some sort of guidance of someone that knows, and I think as you guys have spoken about thinking how valuable this would have been when you're at that point in your career, and I was at that point and I was like, surely there's something. And I timed it quite well. You were just doing sign-ups, so it was like good timing. And I got put into a group mentoring situation. And I was amazed by all these people in my group. They were all rising stars. I was like, why am I here? But then I heard about all of them grappling with everything they struggled with too, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and I think it was so honest, because I think I've been to quite a few mentoring events or networking events, and people kind of put their best front on and they tell you all the amazing things they're doing, and then you all of a sudden feel like you've not done anything amazing at all. And I think seeing all these amazing women who've had all these great experiences and still, struggling with different areas of their job, and being there to like listen, talk, empathise was the absolute best thing for me to kind of regain my confidence back. And then I had, so whilst I was in this kind of bit stuck at work, there was an opportunity that came up in the infrastructure sector in Revit, because a lot of the infrastructure projects that we've been on were in MicroStation, and this was a Revit project, and I'm in Revit. So I got approached, and I was thinking, oh, that's different, and I thought I was building up my network in the residential sector, and I liked my team, and I was very comfortable there, and it felt like a really big jump, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to be as good at my job, and had overthought the whole thing, was quite pessimistic about it, but I had a really good gut instinct about it, and I had all these wonderful women to talk to about how I felt. And I remember saying, I've got a really good gut instinct, I'm quite stressed about it, but I've got a good gut instinct about it, so I moved. And yes, I didn't know as much as I did initially. Yes, kind of made quite a few mistakes, but what it showed me, which I didn't see initially, was that I don't think I am necessarily sector specific in my job, and it challenged me in a completely different way that highlighted where my kind of strengths kind of aligned, and it showed me new areas of the industry, exposed me to really different types of clients, gave me more leadership opportunities, which I really liked. And I think for the first time in quite a while, I started seeing a kind of quite clear route forward. Not knowing what that was at all, but knowing it was there.
Without some labels.
Yeah. And I think that was it. So I've been in the infrastructure side for quite a while now. I've really grown in confidence, I think, especially since the mentoring sessions. I always talk about having this fake confidence, which I think I use as a defense mechanism, and then having actual real confidence where you know you're right, or you know that you're probably right. So I think the 2 years that I've been part of women in architecture has been quite a journey. I think my perspective on my career has changed quite a lot, and actually the change, whatever that change was the right thing. I think I just needed a change, and I think if I learned anything from that, it's just being more open to change and opportunities going forward. So that's.
Can I just ask you about, translating from residential to infrastructure, it doesn't get any more extreme in terms of sectors, But I love the fact that very early in your career you've realised I don't need to pin myself down, or I don't need someone else to box me in here, because actually I know that even if I don't know all the regulations or I don't know all the things that have been done before, I might ask a silly question, but I bet everyone else is wanting to ask the same thing, they're just not game enough to do it. And all the things I've learned in terms of how to work with teams and bring teams with, can translate in any sector. And it's all about personal skills, it's all about how you communicate, and those are absolutely transferable skills.
Absolutely, and I think parts of my job that I've now realised I really enjoy are being in workshops with all the disciplines and kind of being able to read the room in different areas, which is a skill that I would never pin as something that I'd be interested in learning, because I was like, I need to learn building roads or something. But I was like, I really like this. It's really different. It's really exciting, and so I think it's not quite clear yet. But I think I'm getting there and learning loads still, and getting to meet really interesting people. So yeah. Definitely.
And maybe I'm also sensing you're getting more comfortable with not necessarily having a clear 5-year plan.
Maybe, and try not to think, even though it's my kind of intrinsic personality trait too, I think, which I think quite a few architects do. But trying to make sure I take a step back, and I think the mentoring is always a great way of doing that. And even hearing yourself talk to someone else about your career is a great way of becoming that, listening to yourself too, because you don't necessarily do that. You have your voice in your head telling you, oh, it's bad. Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't realise that it's that one experience you had that sort of almost felt like nothing to somebody else. They need to hear it. They need to hear that same thing will happen to them or could happen to them or whatever. And for some of us, it's a small, like a pebble or a small rock that was in the way. But to somebody else, that just can mean the world in terms of just hearing it.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you. Ankaran, now you have a beautiful full circle story, but please share your journey with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Ankara. What do I do now? I had a summer party yesterday, so I might lose my voice halfway through. So I might need to stop us water. But yeah, lovely to meet you all and be here today. So yeah, I think my journey is probably about kind of having an anti-career, which I probably describe it as, and probably of kind of falling from one thing to another. I can't really plan kind of 4 hours ahead, so let alone 5 years, it really scares me. So I think for any of you out there that are like that, there's hope.
It's all okay, it's all okay. It's all
so yeah, I'm an architect. I did art foundation years ago, doing the lights. And I was going to go and do animation actually, and then I kind of had an architectural kind of flair, I guess you'd call it, about all the stuff I was investigating in art foundation. So tutor was just like, why don't you try architecture? So I just went, all right. So I did that, and then I did architecture work for some practices. Oh yeah, at university, my master's was about looking at kind of urban cities from a kind of using a living cell as the concept for it and how a living cell works, which actually does help me in my day-to-day work now, so it's again a full circle. But after that, yeah, I went to do architecture in London in practice. I think looking back now, I did actually move up quite quickly in practice, and I was given a lot of responsibility without really realising at the time. Very stressful. But then, yeah, I was doing kind of a lot of resi work, and I went to a construction event, and I met some developers there, and got talking to who became my boss, and got chatting. At the end of the night, he just essentially said, do you want to come do you want a job? And then we should probably formalise this. So next day or two, went for an interview, and he essentially said, okay, we should probably do some further work. I can't just probably hire you. So he sent me the design guides they had. This was at Pocket Living, by the way. That's where I went. So yeah, he was like, we've got a set of design guidelines and kind of product guidelines and designs that we hold internally. So can I send you those and just let me know what you think? I think he was just expecting me to just have a quick skim, but I just tore it all apart, and next time we met, I just took the whole pack of like info printed, like just scribbles all over. I was like, this is just rubbish. And he's like, we just laughed and said, okay, I probably do need you. So yeah, started working there, went over to the dark side, as people call it, to client side, and started there as a, I think, design coordinator is what we called it. But then, yeah, quite quickly moved up, and then it was amazing having Russ there, who's my boss and a huge advocate for design in general. But I think what was the biggest shock for that, I think I was probably quite naive at thinking, it'll be fine going over, like how hard can it be? But I think the biggest shock was culture, just being in an office not full of architects and creative people. I mean, I don't know why I didn't really think of that. And so, you know, in architecture we're all very different obviously, but we all have that baseline interest of passion for that culture and design. But yeah, in development, it's just money, essentially. So it's quite hard to learn that language as a kind of someone quite young. So yeah, quite quickly I had to learn how to navigate people's different values and interests, you know, across the practice and try and drum up support, I suppose, for what I was trying to advocate, which was really good quality, amazing and innovative design. And yeah, it was a really huge struggle, but I had Russ, he left though. So then I was kind of, yeah, just alone, as Sabrina was saying. So you do feel, yeah, that kind of void, I think, once your mentor or that kind of advocate leaves. And that's actually happened repeatedly through my career. But so yeah, I had to battle alone to try and fight, you know, to essentially replace my boss. So to put a job description together, run a plan to get the bloody job and all that kind of stuff. Because they were like, oh, you're quite young, so, you know, probably can't give it to you. Even though I was kind of doing the role anyway. So yeah, I had to do the plan, like, you know, try and get the job and stuff. So managed it, and then yeah, I had a team to run and all that kind of stuff. But it's really fun. Like, and by the end, we managed to turn the whole culture around. It's just this amazing place in the end of like everyone talking about design, everyone loving it, everyone advocating from every kind of background, finance, land buyer. It's just, and they carry on to this day. You know, I'm still really good friends with them all, and we've kind of instilled that mindset. So I feel like that was a huge success, actually.
I mean, you are very humble about this, and I remember the first time I heard you talk about this, that yeah, you had one person who supported you, and really one person talking about design, and he wanted you because he wanted help with that. But then clearly there was a battleground for I don't know how many years, but then actually when you left, the picture was very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, it was about 4 years it took, yeah. But I mean, we got there a bit earlier than that, but what I'm proud of is that they kind of still carry it on today, and they've kind of instilled that ethos. And you know, I'll meet a land buyer who's just like this proper geezer on a night out, and he's like, oh, I just love this design, or you know, I love this like product that we created together, and he's hiring good architects now, so it's worked. So really happy about that. So then, yeah, basically, I mean, out of nowhere, for us anyway, quite a substantial amount of the developer company got taken over by another US developer, and culture kind of changed quite quickly. And so I wasn't really looking to move, but then yeah, I met someone else, and then the same thing happened again. But this time it was quite for went from head of design to then design director for Landsec. You're probably thinking, who the hell are they? I don't really know who they were either, but they're basically the same as British Land, like, you know, big, huge, well, probably the biggest landholders in the UK. So it was quite a huge role. So yeah, I thought, oh, fine, yeah, let's try for it. And then, but actually that one was really hard. It took about nearly a year to get that job. So it's quite hard to be doing my full-time job at Pocket without really anyone knowing that I was trying for this one. And you know, had to do like aptitude tests, and like they really put me through the ringer for that one. And I was just about to just pull the plug on the whole thing and got the call. And my parents were like, don't take it. How dare they? Like, put you through all this, like, it's taking so long. But I just couldn't say no, and it was just an amazing opportunity. So hopped over there, and the career, the job description there was site director, but to kind of help kind of create a whole new mixed-use regeneration sector. So my boss had already started, he started hiring some other people, and I was quite early on in that stage. And then, yeah, by the time I left, another 4.5 years, it's like my pattern. Yeah, we had a kind of 25 strong team, and We'd also acquired another company and had loads of massive complex sites around the UK. But what I'm really happy about what happened there was, again, the culture change. We got lots of people talking about design changing their mindset. Lots of people actually, I mean, it's really basic stuff like just people talking and people actually collaborating. There's loads of people just working in silos over there. And then I met, again, I went to a kind of cycling construction industry event before Christmas last year and met the head of design from Resi at Hawkins Brown, which is where I worked 10 years ago. And we got talking, and then the next day he rang me up and he was just like, well, would you consider coming back to practice? I was just like, well, no, there's no way I'll do that. And then the next week I just thought, oh, actually, it could be quite good. So turned up, had a few chats with various, I know, it's funny. So we had a few chats with various partners there. Already, you obviously know, I've kept that relationship for 10 years with them. We've worked together with me as client side and them as architects as well, so, you know, whichever relationship has been fun. And they wouldn't really know how to bring me back, but then I kind of listened to them all and shaped the design, well, I call it a regenerative design consultant role. So we formed that together, kind of just after listening to what their needs were and how I could kind of fulfill that. And yes, that's what I'm doing now. And I'm working with, I've got my own coach. Actually, you know, it's quite an expense, but I feel like it's worth it. As Sabrina said, I took some time to think, just to dream earlier in the year, because I just haven't ever in my life really had that time. So that was amazing. And so yeah, working with my coach, and she's got a tech background, so she's helping me kind of just think about how my skills could transfer to other industries. And I don't ever have the discipline to sit down and be critical of myself or think about any structure of things. I wish I was like Sabrina, but I try my best. But yeah, so she's helped me, she's realised that I'm a visual person, and we've got this Miro board that we've created together. She gives me tasks every 2 weeks to do, and I just basically do them the hour before, but we meet. But it does work, and it's forcing me to kind of, you know, think about the future a bit more, maybe a bit more structure.
So you've had like lots of wiggles and turns and all of these things, but it's funny that you've come full circle and you're back to Hawkins Brown. But I also love, I mean, you sort of brushed across it there, that I think a lot of us fear like networking opportunities and gosh, we've got to go out and speak to people and talk about our role, and maybe we're not so satisfied in our role, or maybe we don't know how to describe or whatever. But you seem to have this knack of the 3 main moves that you made were all via an event or a connection, a relatively random connection that you made. So you clearly there's something about the way in which you trust your instincts, or you ask the right questions, or there's something in there.
Yeah, I think it also is about putting yourself in the environment you're happy in. So I love extreme sports, basically. And so being at a cycling event, we cycle basically from, also like wine, so we basically cycle from London.
They go together, yes.
We cycled from London to a vineyard in like Surrey or somewhere, and I was just like, this is the best. And yeah, I think, so you put yourself in the best light, I suppose. I mean, I actually hate networking, no offense to everyone, but I think you have to just, as much as I hate to just put yourself out there sometimes, but yeah, don't go to a pub if you hate drinking, or don't go to an event if you hate, I don't know, just go and do something that maybe aligns with your interests, because that's where you'll be at your best, that's what I'd say.
Very good advice. And I do think that we should be running an event, as we do in this mentoring program, about how it is to do networking, and I think we need some hot tips from you when we run that event.
Okay,
because I need some of those tips, yeah. Thank you. So Nia, last but definitely not least, so you have an incredible story, and I'd love you to share it in terms of you founded your own practice in India, you're still doing works there, you're a published architect, and yet it was a struggle to find and be recognised, find work here and be recognised for your qualifications.
I'm an architect from India, and I came to London 2 years back for my master's in University of Greenwich. So I did my undergrad back in India. It was like a 5-year course with an integrated internship with it, and I started practicing on my own even before completing my master's, undergrad. And once I started, I was having fun and I completed it. And when I completed my undergrad, it got published in a magazine, and I started getting more clients who came to me after seeing my published project, and I started having more fun. I started taking more projects and I started doing it. And where I'm from, the support system isn't as strong, and once I moved to UK, my confidence level dropped drastically. So I was no longer the person who had the confidence to take up projects and complete it independently. I was struggling to even introduce myself with and associate myself with the work that I've done back home to someone here. And that's when I joined the mentorship program last year. And it was a completely new experience for me. I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I couldn't imagine something like this back. I was part of a group mentoring program, and it took me a while to put my voice out there and speak because I think I was overcome by imposter syndrome as well, and I think other people had to introduce myself with the work that I've done a lot more than I could. And once I moved to UK, I was in a way living double lives. So here I was this very underconfident person, and back home I was this woman who went to get her master's in arrogance, or that's how my senior put it.
Yeah, masters in arrogance, if you didn't hear that. How is that? Great.
So I realized that despite the work that I've done, I didn't have the luxury to speak out what I had in mind or even joke when I was in a crowd. And in a way, I was struggling with both the personalities. So I was learning to tone it down back there, because I think as women we are very good in toning it down. And here I was struggling to speak to people. I remember going for the first event in London, where architect Anupama Kondo was a speaker, a hero that I've been looking up to for years. So I wanted to talk to her, so I've been waiting around like a serial killer, waiting for so nobody else should see me talk to her, so I was waiting for the right moment. And not the way I intended to meet her for the first time though, but anyway, I introduced myself and I didn't have anything else to say. So
Just hi. I'm just gonna say hi.
and she said, both our hairs are the same, hair look the same. And I started giggling and I left. So that's
I'm sure she remembers me.
I know that. And so that's how the first meeting went. This is how I was trying to find visibility here, because I found myself alone in the city without an identity, and I think I really needed it. But I was even reluctant to post on LinkedIn because who am I? And I think it took me a while to reach that point where today when I reached here, I kind of roamed around and met a few of you. That wasn't how I started. So and then again after graduation, it took me a while to understand how the systems worked. And when I said double lives, I also had to keep up with how the industry is moving forward here and back home. So that was a struggle for me again, and I didn't know how the system worked here. I didn't know what the firms looked for in particular. So I had to connect with people, I had to understand how it worked. And so after I signed up for the mentorship program, I was very clueless. So at that point, I got a hold of Tanya's book, and then these are small steps that I took to understand or to get myself to understand the people better. And every single step I hear people talk, or even when I was going through a book, it felt like, oh, I've been in this situation. So it's not just me alone. So back home, I didn't have a mentor again. When I started practicing as well, I didn't have anyone to look up to or say if I was doing the right thing. But somehow I just went with the flow because nobody was stopping me. It was me by myself, and I don't know if that was a good thing or bad, but I wish I had the support that I have now. But and then after my graduation, I again struggled to understand the right way to apply for jobs here. So I was still reaching out to people through LinkedIn, and people were very generous in the sense that they offered to go through my portfolio, connect with me. They spent time to give me feedback, and then 2 months ago, I got an offer from Foster & Partners, and I'm an art digital assistant there now. So it's been a month and a half now, and I am starting to have fun again.
Yes. And can I just take you back to the fact that you started your own practice whilst you were still studying? And I recall I asked you, what was your move there and why did you decide to do that? And you said something really brilliant back to me.
Yeah. So in back home, 60% of the students would be women, but after graduating, the number drops, and again, the number in leadership positions are drastically low. And when I started, I just looked at the people who started with me. I mean, men were naturally very ready for career, and they are not as reluctant. And I just looked at them and thought, how hard could it be?
Sorry to anyone in the room who might be offended by that. How hard can it be? If you can do it, so can I. But honestly, I just think this is just, I'm making a big deal about that, but I honestly think there's something in that you just looked around you and you thought, well, look, they are able, they talk a bit like me, they've had a similar level of experience to me, and yet they've started something, so why shouldn't I? I just think imagine if we all had a bit more of this attitude in us, that we went, well, let's just give it a go. Yeah, and I just think that I obviously know your struggle here in UK to find work, and here you are now at Foster's, which is just incredible. And it was nearing the end of your time thinking, well, if I don't get a job, then I have to leave the country type thing, which would have been really sad after you've invested so much time here in your masters and you've built up friendship groups and your network. So I know that the pressure you were under, but you just kept rising to the occasion. And to take a leaf out of Ankrat's book, I also saw you at an event where you really just went up to people and said, hi, this is what I'm doing, this is what I need help with. And I was so proud, because I know how hard it's been for you to be visible. And I also know that with an event like this, you were initially a bit reluctant and you passed these opportunities before, but this time you said, I better not say no to Tanya. So look at you, just doing your first panel event. So well done. So I'm going to open up for questions in just a minute, but I want to do just a bit of bouncing amongst the panel. So Sabrina, we started off with you, and your really courageous move in terms of saying, give me a chance. I'm going to tell you how you should be running this business. And and here's where we can start, and now I better figure out how to do it. But now that you've heard some of these other stories, and the fact that you are in charge of how things operate within a practice, and you see some of these struggles and these opportunities, what's bubbling up for you now?
Pressure. Is this green?
I think it's just all.
Oh, is that right? So, it's I think it's fascinating. I was very touched about your story. I think it's incredible. I'll take my hat off. You really touched me actually. I didn't know you were looking for a job. So it's incredible to me. It's the different paths and stories here are so different, right? And you are in your own world, and you think your story is the center of the universe because it's the most important one, because it's yours. And actually, you hear others, and they are as important and also extremely inspiring. So I just feel inspired. I think we're going to do more of this, more sharing. It's what I'm taking away. I mean, the sharing is where the power sits, because sharing stories inspires people to be able to do not the same thing, because we all want different things, right? We all have our story, but to go and take whatever is it that you want to go and take. That's what I'm. Sorry, I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I'm totally inspired by all of you as well, and I hope that we can throw some sparks out to our audience about being inspired as well. So I'll just offer anyone to grab the mic and say what's bubbling up for them, and then we'll open up for questions.
One thing that after listening to all the others clearly came to mind is that, again, it's a mentorship that never ends, because you never know what's your next phase in life. So again, resonate with some of the issues that I've heard, but not with others. But doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So it's very reassuring, because you know that even if you're going to go through something unexpected in your life, there's someone else that did it already. So you think something is impossible until someone doesn't, and it's not impossible anymore. So yeah, it's very somehow reassuring and inspiring.
Inspiring.
We all say inspiring.
Anyone else from the panel like to